My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. So this is basically the idea here is that Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service has basically heard my complaints, either from me or from others, and has maybe corrected that, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what they've done. The problem with this video here is that the face nail here is covering the legend. So my complaint was that this showed that, because it goes up to 600 parts per million, the legend, that this showed that it was saturated at 600 parts per million, and we didn't really know how much was up there. So what they said is, and I'm okay with this on many different levels. So you'll notice that the coloration has changed. What they've done is they've taken their legend, and then basically what it is it's an anomalous level map. They are stating that 420 parts per million is nominal now. And so what that allows them to do is it allows them to throw this nice emerald green color up here. So it's not all blood red. And I'm cool with that. I'm happy, I'm pleased as punch, because now you don't have a pedestrian come and look at the site and not really knowing that much about what's going on, and having kept up with it for a number of years, and look at a blood red thing and jump out of a window. Okay. So that's cool. It is a little, I don't want to say it's mendacious. It's a little bit of sleight of hand there, but that's okay, because most people who really know what's going on are able to glean enough, are able to gather enough. This is better because it's, now we can. The complaint was we couldn't really see what was there, and now you can. It's more descriptive. It's better. So I think they've done a great job. The green color is okay because that emerald green is a Prozac kind of color, and it calms you down. I think that's probably better too for your average, for average folks. I think it's good just to kind of tune in here and kind of look at that, because this kind of has kind of a calming effect. I'm okay with that. I want to cut to the chase, because here was my major complaint. At 50 hectopascals, about 67,000 feet, realized that the stratosphere, that the troposphere around the equator can go all the way up to 60,000 feet. All your convection is in the troposphere. So you have around the equator, or where the sun is directly overhead, you're going to have this balloon of convection. So your troposphere balloons up there. And this acts like a lens, or can act like a lens. And so you end up with these high pressure zones, that hot, dry, high pressure, fire producing kind of shit can go on there. In any case, so that high level of carbon dioxide goes all, can go all the way, according to would be, some of that would be like almost in the troposphere. It's kind of weird, but you got to look at the lapse rate and stuff like that. So you have a lapse rate all the way up to 60,000 feet in some cases. A negative lapse rate. Okay, so now they're stipulating. Nominal is 422 parts per million at 50 hectopascals. I've stated and have been stating for years now, because the map looked like this. This legend here, you're just going to take my word for it. Well, I can show you on a different video, which I'll do in a second. That they said, okay, this is 600 parts per million. And it used to say 1,000 parts per million. But now they are, and I said, because it's all red, that what this is stating is that it is saturated at 1,000 parts per million, and we don't really know how much is up there. It's just like an idiot light. It's a red light. That's what I said in this video. Now they've corrected this, and they've said, no, That's not what we're saying. We're saying that the baseline is now 422 parts per million. It does not go above that. It's all that or below in the stratosphere, which is
50 hectopascals.
Because greenhouse gas in the stratosphere causes global cooling. It's a function of statistical mechanics, and that's how that is. So that's a hard term, but they are stating, this graphic states unequivocally that they are saying that no, at 50 hectopascals, it does not go above 422 parts per million. It's between it looks like it's between 412, which is sort of the emerald color here, like 400, 412, about 412, and 420 some odd parts per million. And they have this lovely emerald green color. It's a nice Prozac color. It's beautiful to look at. It calms you down. Emerald green calms people down. So I'm totally cool with that. You're not going to have somebody come in off the street, look at an all red thing, and jump out the window. Because we don't really need anybody to jump out the window anyway. So there's that. And we'll just truck down the line here. Now I have my face nail is over here now. It's not in the way. Now when you go down to 300 parts per million, you're like, well, it's a little higher here. So and here's another thing. Some of the way when you were able to step through these, it made it look as though the carbon dioxide was coming from the northern hemisphere, and that methane might have been the driver. And now they're saying, no, it's not. It's looks like maybe wildfires in Brazil and Southern Africa. 300 parts per million, 300 hectopascals, which is about 30,000 feet in elevation. And they're saying, it's a little higher. 300, as high as 432 parts per million. But no 600 parts per million, no 1,000 parts per million, none of that. Right? They're stipulating that. They're saying that. And I'm totally okay with this color regime on here. I'm not going to kibitz because they have all the instrumentation, they have all data, and I know that they probably had like maybe some fist fights and shit online with different people about how much is where and all this kind of stuff. Because, people with, egomaniacs, atmospheric science, with all of the statistical mechanics and all that stuff, that's where all the egomaniacs like to go and hang out. All right? You know what that kind of trip is. I'm just not to make too fine, not to put too fine a point on it, but that's how that is. So I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna say, well, they fought it out. They were beating each other's asses in the back by the dumpster. They had some fist fights back there because you got some Irish dudes that come out and say, "It's done and dusted," and all that shit. You know what I mean? Okay, 500 hectopascals, about 18,000 feet. So they're painting a clear picture. They're saying, no. The carbon dioxide is coming from, looks like probably wildfire, agricultural fires or something like that in the southern hemisphere. Between the equator and the southern hemisphere and other locales. 850 hectopascals, and it's pretty much, this looked like, because it kind of waxes and wanes, that it might have been from plant respiration and photosynthesis. However, at 850 hectopascals, they're saying this dark coloration is 440 parts per million. Not 1,000, not 600. So that's what they're saying. I'm like, okay, sure. It's European Space Agency connected type of folks doing this stuff, but this is where you're able to identify sources. And up in the Northern hemisphere, they're saying, no, it's closer, it's further down. The nominal is 420 something, and this nominal kind of moves around a little bit between, depending on what level you're looking at. They're saying, nah, it's 400 and doesn't go above 420 something, 22 parts per million roughly. And I have to apologize. I left my face nail over here on this side of the thing, and I was covering the legend, and I couldn't move it around. I tried to move it around. I couldn't grab it and move it around. So here you go. And this pretty much shows you that what they're making clear is that they are saying the sources are from the surface. The surfaces are the source is not coming from methane. That's what they're saying. That's what all this graphical information is saying. Is they are stating unequivocally that the source is from the surface, from the surface of the terrain of Terra, And so you can see the usual suspects. Wow, the southeastern United States is a big producer. And it makes sense, though. I mean, if you've ever been to Alabama back in the 70s. There were parts of
Birmingham, Alabama
where you could hardly breathe. So there's that. And I'm okay with it. What am I going to say? I like what they did with the green coloration and everything. I think it's an inspired plan to do it this way, like it's an anomalous quantity graph, if you will. So this is total column. And total column, it goes along with the slides. It makes more sense with the rest of the slides. They are stipulating, they are saying, no, the carbon dioxide is coming from the surface. Here's where it's coming from. It paints a more cohesive, more coherent picture. So I don't know if somebody slipped it in on them, because if you're doing total column, if your total column is made up of information coming from the other levels, and several of your other levels are all maxed out, then it's going to throw your values up on your total column. Most people just look at the total column. Plot. I know they're doing hard work, and I'm sure they had a couple of, they had some jujitsu shit going on out behind the place, down behind the dumpsters. Look, that's how they do it. They do great work, and they're working hard to get the information right. I know they are. So I think I'm good. I'm okay with it. It is what it is, and it really fucking doesn't matter, to tell you the truth. They do this dog and pony show shit with sustainability and all that kind of shit. And I'm just going to state it like this. Fuck all that. Look, y'all, fuck all that. We know what the answer is. Nuclear. Nuclear power has the lowest carbon footprint, period. We know how to do it. We've had nuclear submarines, which is where you pack 30 people into a tube and sink them under the ocean for long periods of time with a reactor sitting right behind them. Okay, so we know how to do this without blowing shit up. So if your nuclear power plants are not designed, built, or operated by assholes, okay, if you blow up a fucking nuclear reactor, you are a fucking asshole. Okay, that's the deal. And we need nuclear power right now. So let's not be assholes, okay? That's kind of where it's at, folks. All this shit about building solar panels and stuff like that, and adding another $1 trillion, giving Elon Musk another fucking $1 trillion, I say fuck that shit. Okay? Nuclear power. It's like fucking duh. Okay? If there's a problem, nuclear power. Small modular nuclear reactors. The problem, the issue that they always came up with nuclear power was when you get to a gigawatt, all of a sudden, gigawatts of steam, okay, billions of joules of steam is an extraordinarily explosive quantity that you have to build in a containment vessel from fucking hell. A concrete dome from fucking hell, Okay? That's what the problem is. So you've got to bring these high-priced engineers and shit and workers and stuff in, and they're all unionized, which is fine, but they all want to pick their ass and slow walk their way to get it fucking done, and we don't have time for that shit. So the obvious way to do it, you're talking about everybody makes these, everybody from Westinghouse, good old Westinghouse. My grandfather had a Westinghouse electric stove in the 50s, okay? Westinghouse are some of the first people that ever built a nuclear power station. GE, Electric Boat, any of those people, all of them. What does Mitsubishi makes it? You name it. They're not that frickin' hard to build. You know what I mean? And it's just an obvious answer, and the only people who say nay to that are people who are making money on the carbon industry. There's other reasons why you want to have nuclear power anyway, because, in the event of some celestial event, we get hit by an asteroid or there's a nuclear war or something like that, you want nuclear power. Because all of the annihilation or near annihilation events involve blackening the sky, blotting the sun out from the sky, which means no solar and wind. Maybe, I don't know, maybe all your windmills are all susceptible to being blown over or not having any wind, And all that stuff has to be wired up. It uses a lot of copper to wire all that stuff together. We don't have to do that anymore. I mean, it's this enormous footprint to build all of that quote-unquote sustainable horseshit that we don't need. Because if you're going to really step forward into the future and build the shit we really need to have, you're going to need high power. You're going to need lots and lots of energy. Forget about it. AI on its own, Google and Microsoft and others are building nuclear power stations to run their AI facilities. Because that's the most sustainable way to do it. So that's me. That's my soapbox for today. And we know this. Everybody knows this at this point. We're going to have to, politically they have to kiss all these different butts because all these people are making money. This is I'm going to put this link in the description. And now I'm not going to remember dude's name. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to look at it because, dude and this guy here is not going to cut it. I got to tell you what the guy's name is. Stefan Ramstorff, professor of physics of oceans, Potsdam University, Germany. So, without characterizing anything too much, Professor Ramstorff is citing sources from 1961. What that means is that this science, the science, is well-trodden landscape. This shit ain't news to anybody. That's thing one. So he's citing sources that are well vetted. This ain't some shit that popped out the side of somebody's asshole over here. He goes on to say that they run some models, and basically most of the models that pretty much they universally lead to an AMOC shutdown, some sooner rather than later. But the important thing about the AMOC, Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current, the salinity and heat transport system of the world, essentially, it wraps all the way around the world. He's got a nice little view of that. Look down here at the map. 1600 is where the slide kind of sort of the very beginning of this. The AMOC shutdown, this has been recorded. Now, know this. Accurate temperature measurement has been around for a long time, since the 1600s. Why? Because the people who started making accurate measures of humidity and temperature and things like that were brewers and people that made wine and things like that. So that's been around for a while. Accurate temperature measurement's been that long. And they have been measuring the temperature in the Atlantic Ocean since the 1800s. These are accurate measurements taken from ships crossing the Atlantic for the last close to 200 years. So this is not, there's no question about the validity of the data. It's there. They have measured the shutdown. It's been written about. It's been discussed for 150 years. The AMOC shutting down has been discussed for at least 150 years. So I would prefer for you to go and listen to Professor Ramsdorff talk about it. He's a nice guy. You know, he's pleasant to watch. It's a serious topic, and there's some chilling. You know, you put in the two effects: the effect of global warming caused by burning fossil fuels, and the AMOC, which is a natural. You know, this is a natural thing. It flips and flops. It's a natural process, apparently, that has its own. See, the other thing too is you want to watch this because he talks about there's a feedback that happens that within. So when you flip the switch, once you flip the switch, it takes a while for it to get going, but there's a feedback that happens because of the slowing of the current and the accumulation of less saline water. It produces its own feedback. There's its own feedback. So once it gets going, it kind of like the horse leaves the barn, and that's pretty much a wrap. This has been going on now for 150 years. So that regime mixed with the fossil fuel burning regime produces something else. Means without the heat transport, then you get more warming in other parts of the globe, which is what you're looking at here with this map. Again, I would go and watch this. This is climate change. This is the AMOC. The question is the AMOC shutting down? Because we've seen this stuff ad nauseum for the last 20 years, and books have been written about it and stuff. It's easy, and I almost did it. I almost did it myself. Just said, okay, yeah, I know all about that. But it gets into some important details about the validity of the data, where it comes from, who's talking about it, and some specifics that are important. So that's why the link is in the description. Go have a peek. So there's that. I had to touch on this. That's important because, you know, I'm not going to argue with legions of PhD'd, peer-reviewed people who have decided that this is what they're going to make the map look like. I agree with it because of the psychological impact of looking at something that's got a little emerald green on it and all that. We're cool. Thank you. I think it's a better product, and if that's what you say, okay. All right. And that's that. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. Be careful out there, guys. Don't be scared. Be prepared. You know, you live on a planet. Get used to it. But know this is in the works, you know, and the reason why it's a deal is because some of these things some of these switches, when they throw, it's not a process that happens over years. It's a process that happens over days, months, hours maybe. And that depiction of cold last year, maybe it was last year in Colorado, temperature dropped about 100 degrees. It went from being like balmy and warm to below zero in less than 24 hours. So you don't want to be caught out hiking. You know, hikers, campers, you know, stuff like that. You just don't be scared. Be prepared, pay attention, and get yourself a ham radio. They're little things. Get a little ham radio, get a citizens band radio, because when the shit hits the fan, a lot of times the cell towers go out. You know, Starlink is good. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. Love you guys, man. Take care. Don't be scared. Be prepared, and do what you got to do. Thanks for watching. See you.